Recently, Bentley dropped on us shocking news about the making Vue and Plan Factory free forever. If you're not familiar with those applications, just think about the movies that you watch recently from, for example, Marvel's, Disney, wherever they're using those stunning 3D environments that in many cases utilize a Vue applications that allow to create 3D environmental boards, plants, forests, clouds, all that surround. And Bentley says they stop developing of these applications for now, and all current versions and even pre-release versions, the Vue 2024, as well as a Plan Factory that you can design your own plans, and a Plan Catalog with thousands variations of the plans, is free now. So in this video, I will show you where to download, how to install, and very short, fast how to use. Of course, if you want to learn more, I will highly recommend go check my channel on YouTube. It's Geekatplay, where I literally have thousands and thousands of videos how to work with these applications, how to create your own plans, how to create your environments, and how to utilize them by using in your video games or your film production, or just create simple illustrations and fun. So first, what you want to do is download applications, and it's come with the two main applications. It's a Vue, the applications that allowed us to work with environments and modeling, and Plan Factory, where we can create the plans. For this, the link will provide down below in description, so you can go to Bentley Software, your own software free downloads, and you'll notice right here you have it Vue, Plan Factory, and Plan Catalog. Below, you have a download button. Click on download button, and it will open the end user license agreement, which in general says you can use these applications. They won't support no tech support for them at all, because they're all free right now. And whatever you produce in them, you can actually use it commercially. So if you use the Plan Catalog, if you use the Plan Factory, you can create plan and sell, for example, for video games. Or you can sell in other ways, or you can create work generate. However, some limitations, like Plan Catalog with all plans, you cannot resell them. Whatever content come with a EON with this package, you cannot resell this. But all original content you created, you can use it for commercial works. So it's very in simple ways. Of course, you can click on agreement and read more in details. Click accept and click submit. After this, you will come to the page where you see all these different versions. Let me explain about them. Vue 2023 and Plan Factory 2023, it's a stable release versions. They're fully functional, and there was official release. However, the Bentley decided to pull plug, it's what else we can tell, on the developing on this before complete release of 2024 versions. So Vue 2024 and Plan Factory 2024 have it new options, new features inside, but they're not all the way tested. They're still stable from what I was testing, but maybe it's something not all the way work. For example, Vue 2024 utilize the cycle rendering, the same what you're using in Blender. Okay, and some of these features we'll look in our next videos. We'll going over what is new and what is different, but let you know that you have it two versions, and I will recommend for you download it two of them. You also can install both of them and work on your machine at the same time. This application does not require any registrations or any serial code anymore. So you just install it and you'll see it's come up as perpetual license. Example, if you go Vue, help about Vue, notice right here this is 2024 versions, and it also says that is perpetual license. As well, any copyright materials that previous was linked directly to your license for it is removed. So right now you can use it any previous content you purchase for the Vue or other things without worrying about sign up to specific license. So this is our applications. Download all of them, and if you scroll down below, you'll notice right here you have a Plan Catalog, and also you have it collections. You'll need downloaded all of these plant catalog, because each of those collections are different. And I think it's 13 of them, so you can download it. They contain self-extract file, and I will install collection of the plants and specific location. The plants that utilizing inside the Vue, they're advanced plants. They allow you to change them by growing different seasons, working with environment, and so on. So they're very complex, and each plant is its own species. Also below, you'll notice you have additional 3D assets, which is included the demo files as well. Some is pre-animated files. I would highly recommend download it, all of them, and install it, because you can use it as a beginning. Of course, if you use it Vue applications, you can import assets from other applications. If you model like in a Blender or even Poser, DAZ Studio, any of them, you can import and use it inside the Vue. As well, you can take models, export from the Vue, and use it in other applications. By the way, all of these versions, they come with the highest version. Previously, you maybe know, depending on what license you purchase, and you have it like extreme versions, you have a different that will work with other applications. This is version that allow to download it. It is the highest version that included almost everything. And I say almost everything because some options was disabled due to their licensing, because applications is free and license was required to updating. So some options, very insignificant, it's disabled, but generally everything should work just fine. Notice right here you have your Windows, Mac non-ARM, and Mac ARM processor versions. Just download one that you're actually going to use. Let's go through one simple installations. All what you need to do, run setup file. You'll notice it will start application installations. After this, it's prompt you load it. You'll select necessary language you're going to use. Go next. Also notice right here you have it your Vue, render node, and render cow is installed. Vue is a main application. So render node, if you have it standalone applications, they can work as a render farm. You also can have it lighter versions of the render node called render cow. And the small host applications will sit on other computer if you want to install it. And from your main application, you can connect and split work. This is very efficient way to utilize a PC or computers that are not using and split the render job between multiple of them. If you're not familiar with render node, but you want to utilize these options, I will recommend to install render cow on the machines that you can utilize later for rendering. It's very fun way to do it. But if you're not familiar, just click on Vue installations first. Let's go next. Right here, because I already have installed it, you can say it says repair, but we don't need to do this, or new installations. Let's go continue with new. You notice it's come up with agreement. Yes, you agree. Let's go to next. Will be your information. Also locations where you want to install. Notice it's include install content library. We'll go to next. This is next is important screen because it will go and check what additional applications you have, and it will install host applications inside of them. For example, you can see I have it Cinema 4D installed, and it's identify them and enable. It's meaning I can run from inside Cinema 4D. I can launch Vue and work with environments, which is actually very useful. Vue have it one of the best environment creation in 3D applications, which create photorealistic, truly looking atmosphere, clouds, plants, everything. And working from the applications that you're modeling, it's very useful. So right here you can check, and just in case if something is missing, I don't have it lightweight for Maya, it's ignoring, but it did find my Cinema 4D and connect to them. After this, you can go to next, and it will start your installation. After installation completed, you can launch your application. Similar type of installations will be applied to the plant factory. Notice you don't have it installations for the plant catalog, because technically plant catalog is a part of the embedded applications inside the Vue or plant factory and allowed you to work with already pre-created plans, modify them, or export. When we started, you will see it's a welcome screen, which is have scenes that we may create already before, as well some demo scene. Let's go just create empty. If you're not familiar with a UI, I will go very fast overview, but for more details, I will refer you to, again, my YouTube channel where I'm going in details. And recently, I'm working on the new videos from the beginning, from start to the end to advanced level on a Vue 2024 and a Plan Factory. And if you're interested in learning and develop this skill, I highly recommend for you to subscribe to my channel and click notification button to know when those new videos are released. Okay, let's look on our interface. And you can see we have it very standard. On the top, you have a drop-down menu. You also have a two toolbar, one on the top, which is generic functionality like save, new file, also access to some editors, editor for atmosphere, lighting, materials, or some animations, as well as some pre-render. So it's a generic tool. On the left, we have an option to access specific properties or objects we have created. For example, we can create a water layer, snow layer, or other things. Also primitive objects, text, different type of the terrains, plants, rocks, clouds or atmospheres, planets, splines if we need to create specific path. Also work with the imported or exported objects, particle systems, effectors or ventilators. We also have all different type of lights, work with some Boolean and other things. All of these properties you can also access from drop-down menus, but they just make a very fast shortcut toolbar, allow you to fast access to those properties. On the middle, you'll notice we have 4 different views, and this is by the default. All of these views, of course, you can easily modify by going to the display, workspaces, and right here, just check lock workspace. Then you'll notice you have options. You can drag any of these and reposition or move even on different screens. Totally customize your workspace. For the purpose of these videos, I'm going to keep it all exactly the same so we don't get confused why your workspace look a little bit different than mine. In the future videos, we will address how to customize and recommendation on the customization for your interface. As default interface, you'll notice we have our 4 views. We have a top view, side view, front view, and also camera view. On our right side, we have our windows for the properties, and this is property small, tiny, which says object aspected. It's changed depending on what object you selected. For example, let's go create a simple sphere, and you notice as we're creating inside the object, it's populating with some properties, preview on the materials, some elements. Next to this, with a size and all physical attributes to our objects. This menu will change if, for example, we switch to the camera. You'll notice all of these properties, each change directly affecting the current select object, in this case camera, which have blur, focus, exposure, and so on attributes. Same if we switch to the lights, for example, sunlight, it switch to these properties. On the left side, you'll notice it's also have those icon. Notice these icons that allowed us access to specific properties, but they also nested properties. What I mean by nested, you see this small blue or kind of purplish dot here. As well, we have it on our left side with the water. It's meaning it's have a subcontext menu. If we right click, it will expand. Notice right here with the layers, it's expanded. Same we'll have with the terrains, and it will open some of them. Some will be actually open different libraries for to work. Same in our other properties. The dot illustrated, it is submenu. For example, if I go right click and select volumetric light, enable as well. If I right click, it will expand and give me to the light editor where I can customize more on these properties. So just keep it in mind, wherever you see those blue or purplish dot, it's meaning more information, more optional menu is available there. Down below, we have our camera view, and this is preview of what you're going to render. This is preview. Currently it says to the final render. However, you can modify and change of this. To modify, you just right click and going to preview quality and change. Currently it says to the fast, which is a render quite a bit, does not take too much resources, but it's not always accurate. For example, in reflections or transparency. We can change this to set standard. That's what comes with default, which is affecting. However, if you have a problem with performance, I would recommend for you to go change preview quality to the fast or just play around, see which one will work better. Also notice after update is enabled, it's meaning anytime when I do any modification on the screen, this will automatically update it. That is could take a little bit more resources if you very intensive repositioning some elements or working. So in this case, sometimes it's work just uncheck after update, do your changes, and then click on a screen to make it update itself. As we longer work around hour, we look on a little bit more optimizations that kind of help you to work with quite a bit large polygon count. Many times when I work, we're going probably about 500-600 billions polygons. Very easy. We can work on these applications, which is actually very powerful. Down below, we have our world browser, which actually have properties to access specific objects we're using in our scenery. And currently you can see we have our ground, main camera, sunlight, and sphere. Main camera have it plus. It's meaning it's a nested additional cameras. And you will notice sometimes you can come and group some objects which will have it sub-nested. Just easy to organize them. Okay, next to this we have additional tabs which allowed us to look on the linked elements, materials we're going to use, and additional like ecosystem instance and other things. This is just to allow us to select not just the object, but select it by their functionality or by materials as well. It's make much easy to always work with specific. So down below we also have some properties we can access. If we look on the view have it about 3 levels. Technically we'll say 4 level of complexity, but fourth one hardly use it. But 3 levels. One, it's as simple as you see UI, and you take element and you repositions, rescale by using Gizmo tool or other elements. So this is straightforward, very easy way to do. Next, it is material. It's editors, and editors can be to the light, materials, or a shape. For example, let's say we have it right here, our sphere, and if I double time click, I can open additional material editor. By default, it's probably you'll see in a basic mode. I would recommend switch almost all editors to advanced mode because this will provide better access to all these elements. And right in our editor, you can see we have access to a lot of different properties. Don't get overwhelmed. We're going through all of them in our future videos. So this is one level. As well, you may have it editor like this. If you have it also just the terrain, you may have it access to the terrain editor in this case, where you can go and modify terrain, erase, decrease, or play around with this. So different terrain, different editors will represent different functionality, but this is kind of like second level. And of course you have the third level, which is more complex, and this is a functions editor. It is a node editor. It's allowed us to modify a little bit more in depth, and because we get more in depth, it's allowed us to have much more flexibility and way more complexity on how application work. Example, you can see right here it's a shape of terrain, and it's represent also an altitude production. So we click on this icon and you can see like 3 squares connected. We also have them down below. We can open with a call the graph editor, function editor, node editor. We can access all the same names. And usually this is have it very simple flow on the nodes. Let me kind of reposition and we can look on this. Notice what is happening here. This is just a simple node. On your left side, you have the input node. Currently input, it's what position and the time for the animations. And on output, we have an altitude effect. So because we work with terrain need to have an altitude. Between those two input and output, we have it math nodes, which is actually perform some functional changes to value or data we receiving. For example, on every position of the point, because when we create terrain represented by points, we also have a disposition of each point, which is represent x, y, and z. Then we're processing, in this case multiplying, going to very simple Perlin noise, which is calculated value for each. And because it's terrain, value representing from 0 to 1, from black, the lowest point, to 1, the highest point. Then it's calculating this way. Also using additional some previews and output and altitude for our terrain. This could be actually feel a little bit overwhelmed with all of these different nodes. And by the way, if you click on nodes, you can see how many just input nodes we have it for this noise and other ones. But it is become a little bit more simpler as we start working. And I do prefer approach to the learning through the hands-on project. So we'll start working with specific project and we'll start discovering and learning functionality as we needed to develop specific goal or specific idea we need to represent. So right here, this is our third one kind of level. And fourth level, it is working with Python language. We're not very often going to use the Python language, if at all, on these videos, but it has allowed you also just program inside the Python. Some could be very complex, and it's done in another videos. For example, when we need to have an object floating with a wave applying, we can use through the Python language this, but it's a quite bit advanced functionality, and most likely we won't cover in this series, but we will cover in advanced videos. Okay, so this is general overview. Another functionality we have it here, and we kind of did not showing. It is animations. So for example, if we're going and we enable our animation, you'll notice on the bottom we have our timeline where we can set a keyframe for specific. We also can use it with the curves, splines, and other things for our animations as we're working. It's expanding. And that is allowed us to modify those keyframes. In many cases, this is timeline won't be visible because we don't, for example, animate it if we're using still image. So in many cases, you won't see it. But if it's there, it's just another option to access this. Okay, also, as we're looking around here, you'll notice our position X and Y. Just let you know, on a view, it's a little bit different from Maya, 3D Max, and other ones, but it's the same as in Carrara, where, for example, X, it's representing horizontal. Z, it's representing away or towards camera, so it's on this plane, and Y representing up on down. Many other axes will be opposite. Y will be up and down, and X will be horizontal, and Z will be away or towards the camera. So kind of different positioning. If you prefer other position, you can always go to the file, options, and inside of options, you go to general node. And right there, you can see load interface presets. You can click on this and preload it Maya, 3D Max, or Cinema 4D pre-default value. So if you like to work as with those applications, for a purpose of this video, I will leave it everything as default for the view. And as you inside the options and other things, I want to point to you, if you're going inside the units, you'll notice in the units, you have a metric setting. You have an option to set imperial or a metrics, depending on which one you prefer to work, and as well units. Currently, one view unit, it's like right here, refer to 1 meter. If you depend on what application you set and you work, sometimes maybe refer to 10 centimeters, 1 centimeter, or 1 kilometer. You want to be sure this with your secondary application as you work, you'll have it the same type of the units assignment. So in this case, you will have it same scale working on both of them. Before we jump and start creating very simple scene inside the view, let's look on our Plan Factory. Same things, you can install Plan Factory, very similar installations. Only when you open, it's look just slightly different. Again, inside the Plan Factory, you have it as well, multiple different levels, but only here you don't create environment, you're creating specific species of the plants and not necessarily just the plants. You can also create some mechanical. I even create the towers, cities, and other things. It's a very interesting modeling tool. It's a procedural modeling tool. So it's meaning it's allowed you to create all these different components and modify them in real time. Notice as a screen created, you'll have it your nodes screen kind of on top left. On the middle, you will have it properties for those nodes. As you're selecting, they will be appear down here below your properties, and you have it preview on your right screen. Same as before, if you go display workspace, you can unlock and modify those panes around, move it as you need it. And below we have it properties with a floating window where we have it properties on the materials or specific nodes. Here to create is a simple drag and drop interface. So similar as a view on the top bar, we have a drop down menu that you can access, general functionality under this, and more component based on the left side. So example, if I can go and select some additional node, which is representing as advanced segment, we just think about cylinder with some properties we can modify on this. And when we're going to connect to the root, by the way, you'll notice here you have it age, root, seasons, and health. So those is we can modify. Root is a base position for our X100. We can connect to advanced. And as we're connecting, in our preview, we have it our segment or a cylinder in this case. Of course, different from the cylinder in a modeling, this already have a lot of predefined properties that we can modify. Beside the modifications on a link, we can modify how it's work, how it's bent, or how it is affecting, as well as a plant. We can enable even wind and see how this plant will affect by this. The very interesting power of the Plan Factory that you can also just draw as well. Like right here, you can see, you can change simple, take it, and draw the plant. And as you draw, you have an additional segment appearing. This is very interesting tool in a way that allowed you to use it your sculpting tool or allowed you to create by the functions and nodes. We'll cover a little bit more in the next videos, but general, just keep in mind that is multiple ways you can actually create inside the Plan Factory. After when you're done creating, you can export this as a species. It's meaning every time when you use the plant inside the view, it will be a little bit different. So it won't be exactly copy, but it will work with the properties you define and create different variations. It's like, for example, if you plant the tree from same species like pine tree, each tree is different. You cannot define them as a species because they're all pine trees, but each tree is different. So it's the same will apply here. As I mentioned before, to access Plan Factory, Plan Catalog, you just need to go from here and import or open the plants that already save it. And you remember I showing you preload all of this, and you can work with them and modify here. Well, let's go as example. We're going to click on Open, go into Plan Catalog. Okay, let's open a little bit more. We'll go, for example, to the leaf tree. And notice we have it all is different. By the way, low details, high details. You also have it full shapes or not full defined. So it's meaning if you have it like single needles or use the alpha plane to work with leaves. And when you decide, you select one. Okay, let's go open. And you can pre-open this. Notice how complex it could be. For example, right here on this plant, this is all nodes. So don't get scared about all of this complexity of connection of the nodes. When we go over, you kind of will probably create even more complex as we're working around. But general, this is create plant. You can see it's have it roots. Also, we have it our textures, and you have it access to the published parameters, which we'll look a little bit later. So you can modify them. Published parameters, it's allowed you to customize options that you allowed end user to modify when they take this plant, and for example, use it inside Vue. Also, as I mentioned before, because you can enable wind, you can see right here, there you go, there's have actual motion right now applied or wind applied to our plant. So you can see how it's work on flexibility of leaves, branches, or trunks. Let's disable this one. As well, you can go ahead and look around, modify any plants or work on this. These plants, it can be fully exportable, so you can export them to use it in your other applications. As well, you can export with cycle animations, so you can have it pre-animated plants, use it inside your, for example, Unreal engines like video games or in any other applications. However, you get the full potential and power of these plants from inside the Vue. So let me go showing some on this, what I mean by example. Notice right here, it does connect to the root, maturity, season, position, and health. So for example, if we click on maturity, let's go to the stop here, and you can see edge. Let's decrease our edge a little bit lower, and you can see plant become younger. As well, if we, for example, have it reduce our health on the plants, you'll notice it's lost some of the leaves and become less healthy. Okay, let's go ahead maturity, and for example, seasons, currently it is spring, summer. Let's go change to the fall season on the plants. You'll notice as we change to the fall, the textures is modified because the leaves become yellowishy and some fall out. And this is what affecting same on our plants. This is all programmatically done with all of this data inside, and we'll look in some other videos how we can do similar things to create plants that will respond with our edge, health, and seasons as well. Well, let's go back to our Vue and see what is actually Vue can do. This is by default, you start with applications and you have the ground as default. This is infinity ground, so it's meaning as you zoom out or you're moving, this is terrain will generate it infinity. It's meaning if you go forever, you will go till your computer crash it or other things happening. Because we don't, okay, let me enable after update because I did remove it. You also flat plane is kind of a little bit boring. Yes, so we want to create something else. Let's go create a simple island, and we'll have it just fun to creating this. So for this, we're going to use a different terrain, and we have multiple different type of terrains. We have a standard high field terrain, which is with a fixed resolution. We also have procedure terrain, which allowed us to create with a higher detail resolution, and resolution change and calculated based on how close camera to the terrain itself. The closer it is, the more details it will add through the fractal functions. Both have plus and minuses because fractal need to recalculate all the time. It will take a little bit more resources. As well, shape may change insignificantly, but it will change. So if you have an ecosystem population or a population of specific plants or materials or items like rocks, they will be need to recalculate the positions on them as well. We also can preload terrains from collections, your own or other ones, and this is also included infinity terrain with different shapes or some other procedural terrain, so you can preload it. And as well, you can go and select even world map. So it's a real map where you can select specific area you want to use it. Apply altitude, size, whatever you need it, as well with a high map resolution if you need it, and import and use this in your application so you can have it refer to real world map. For our purpose, we're actually going to use right now a standard terrain, and as I'm creating, you can see right here we have our mountain created. Let's double time click on this terrain to edit in our editor. As we're creating, you can see it's 256 by 256 points resolution, so it's each point would represent altitude, height, or loss on our terrain, and mesh, triangle mesh connected between them. So to preview this, we can go and click on our preview mesh, and you can see right here we have it. See this point which connect all of these triangles? This is each point as represent the mesh 256 by 256. So it's meaning we have a 256 points of the mesh X and Y. So this way, Z and X actually, it will be more this way. We can increase resolution by doubling, and it will increase details. That detalization not necessarily will work on a fractal, it will just work as a preview for the fractal, but generally you can increase it. In some cases you do want to increase resolution if you're using image based on this. In image based, it's meaning we can go down below and use it some preload image. For example, let's go like a bear paw. Let's inverse it, and you can see right here we can create an island look like this. Sometimes it's more fun to create island look more as the school for the pirate example, but generally it's what we can do. So I'm going to undo this. We'll keep it 512 by 512 for higher, and we can go create different. This is predefined already specific shapes. For example, I do like to use it like Young Mountain. This one, just beware. This is all change shapes except this fourth one. Fourth one, it's erosion effect. I don't know why it's located there, because it's like on the middle of something. And if you click by accident, it will take some long time to process. This is creating some erosions, different type of erosions to the material. Again, we have this blue dot. It's mean if we right click with mouse, we have it all of these different erosions. We can use it. They work very good, but they take some resources and time. So be careful. Don't just click on this. Otherwise, you will need to wait 15, 25 minutes, depending on your computer, till all the calculations is done. And below we have it steps, mountains. We have it also can create some moon-alike effect. But I think we'll just stick around with this mountain ridge, young mountain ridge. Okay. Let's disable our preview. We also have it on the top additional effectors, which is I would recommend to redirect you to my other video where we cover a little bit more in depth of terrain editor, so you kind of can go look over all these properties, what we can do. For now, we'll just create simple, click OK, and you'll notice right here we create our terrain. This terrain, we can use the gizmo tool in our views on the top, and you can rotate, adjust as you like it. I'm just rotating a little bit so it will be look more interesting. We'll take our main camera and bring a little bit up. Again, let's click on our terrain, and if we click on terrain, we go in our properties objects. Let's click on the third size, and right here we can see this is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, and it's 228 meters high. So instead, what I want to do, I want to make a little bit smaller. I'm going to create 150 meters by 150 meters. Oops, too much meters. And maybe because it's look too tall, let's drop down to about 25 meters. So you can see it's become a little bit smaller because we reduce in size. I want to take my camera and just bring a little bit closer. You can work with numbers as well if you want it. You can just go and directly, oh look right here, I put it wrong size, yes. So it's kilometers, so 150 meters I did stretch. So and of course, if you don't like this way, you can always just take some of the angles, like this line will go just simple up and down. This will go left and right, or we can scale. So you can play with different ways, the adjustment, which is kind of nice about this. Okay, After you finish playing with the positions, we can take our camera, take our island, let's rotate and see what angle. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just rotating and looking for more interesting shape as we can create. I think this represents very well. Okay, we'll take our main camera. Also, the lighting is very important. We are working with three-dimensional objects, but we are working in two-dimensional representation because our screens is flat, it's two-dimensional. The lights, shadows, and highlights, it's what deliver to us shape of the object. We can modify this by selecting sunlight and moving sunlight a little bit left, right, up, and down. We can find the perfect position to make sure the lights give it us better shape and more interesting shape in this case. And I think this is work just great. Okay, our terrain is created. It's have a default materials. Let's apply a little bit different materials to this. First, we'll start with the ground. And ground, remember, is infinity plane. Let's just base what you use it. For this, I'll select ground and I will click on icon which says preload our materials. We have a huge materials collection. By the way, if you're Patreon, I have it thousands materials collections of which I developed during 20-something years, 25 years, or whatever, very long time. So you can also join Patreon and have it download those if you're interested. I'll put link down below in descriptions. But right here we're going to landscape and let's go just select maybe soft dunes. This is just will create a sand for us. We also select our terrain. Again, click on the icon to preload it and let's preload soft dunes again. Because the two materials is the same for infinity terrain and the terrain we just created, you can see they're blending very well together. However, soft dunes maybe does not look very nice on a mountain itself. For this, we need combine with different materials. As our terrain 2 is selected, we can just double time click on the icon, which is open for us the terrain editor. Notice right here we have a two terrain mix, and it's called mix materials. This is one of the legacy material inside the Vue. And nice things about materials, we can mix. We can use it new PBR materials, we can use it the ecosystem materials, we can use it mixed materials, and so on. All is different. In this case, I want to apply some other material on top of this. As we in the material editor, I want to click on icon that add additional layer, and you can see it's add new layer of materials where we can have it rock. Let's go just name it rock. We have several options. One, we can actually, as the layer is selected right here, you can see it's selected, and let's do resolution 1. We can just double time click inside and preload it material. So in this case, I'm just going to select material layer. In this case, let's go just select a simple large scale rocks. It says do you want informing? Yes, let's go apply some alpha, and it is should apply on the top. If you cannot preview where it's applied, you can click on visibility and select the color. This is just like highlighter color, and you can see it's areas where this will apply it. Again, we're going to disable. Now we have this rock apply in other areas. Let's just for interest apply something else. On this case, we can go and create again a new layer. We'll go switch to 1, and let's switch all of this to kind of 1. We're going to rework. As we're switching a little bit scale, we have it right here. You can see now it does not match, which is okay. We'll go play with this in a second. So new layer we applied. Let's go again, double time click, and we'll preload it maybe large scale plants, and it's applied to the top. It is applied to all our scenery, but I don't want them touch, for example, on the bottom. For these large scale rocks and a pale grass, we need it says apply only on such high altitude. For this, we'll select the presence tab, and inside presence tab, you can see altitude variations here. We'll just take bottom, move it, and add fuzziness to the bottom. So you can see how it's applied this way. We do have some repetitions going on here because we set 10 and we want set to the 1 on this. Okay, if you have it sometimes hard to identify what materials, remember you can always use it the highlighter, and highlighter tell which material is where applied. And I notice the soft dunes applied down below, and it's probably because I changed a little bit resolution. So let's go try change this way. There you go. So this should be matching a little bit better. Okay, I think this is look okay, and we can look on the rocks again. They apply it here, alpha boost. Don't worry about too much going with details. You can play with more materials later. This is generic. We just applied something to this. The next things what I want to apply, it is ecosystem. Ecosystem is a very powerful engine inside the Vue that allowed to properly and controllably distributed different type of object. In our case, we'll be distributing plants. And because plants, it's a species, it's meaning every plant will look different. So for this, we'll create new layer, and we switch this layer to the ecosystem and particles. So we select this, we'll go to General tab below, Add Item, and from Item, we'll select Add Plant. Notice we can add rocks, objects, or different from Vue scenery, different type of object. As we're selecting the plants, we have a different type, and let's see if we can find, like in a palms, we can go and select. I like this one, palms. We'll go select one palm. You can also select multiple different palms. As we're selecting, double time click. Each even palm have many subversions of the palm. Notice right here, some of them maybe have hundreds different versions. So we can select one. We can also select different by holding down Control key. So we can select all these different versions of the palms. Right there. One thing I like to select multiple, it will give it different variations. When you click, select on all, okay. And the first time when preloaded, it may take a little bit time because what is actually happening, it's take all of these plans specific in preloading in yours. When you start working with the same plan, next time it will read it from the cache and perform much. Okay, right now you can see it's preloaded all of these variations. It's still variations just to one plant. If you want to create a more realistic, I would highly recommend to use a different type of the species. Just look what species using in this zone and you can use it. You also can create multiple ecosystem layers and make them interact between each other. For example, you can create a grass and tell grass growing around the plants that on different layer, different trees, for example. We'll look on those ones in our other videos. Right here, let's create just this. And if we click populate, you can notice it is take and populate the plants all over our island. I'm not necessarily want to do this way, but I want to kind of populate in specific areas. So again, we can go inside the presence and work a little bit more with variation altitude. I'm going to reduce altitude and make fuzziness or smoothness gradients on the bottom. Let's try create populate now, and you can see it populating a little bit more on the top. Let's clear, and if you have a hard time to see where's population happen, again, you can always utilize using the highlighters. So if we highlighters red, and you can see this is area where it will populate it. So it will drop down. Our population should be also expanded. As well, not just the height, you can also affect the angles. For example, slope range, if we can go and reduce our slope a little bit down, it will affect also little bit on our slopes. You can see like right here some areas where it won't be produced. Okay, let's reduce even slope more, so it's a little bit more on the flatter areas, and it will apply. Okay, let's disable our highlighter, go back, and we'll click populate. Notice now it is populated on the more flat areas, and we can play a little bit more with the different perspective and add. Also, let's go add a little bit fuzziness to the side. I don't necessarily, personally, I don't like very sharp lines of the populations, and I like when reduced. As well as we play with the plants, I would recommend going inside the density and play a little bit more with some of these properties. Anytime you can always reset to original. For example, if you go in a scaling and rotations, you can say right here that is how it's direction from the surface. We'll have this shrink at lower density, for example. It's meaning smaller plants will create as the lawns, and you can see how they're changing and applied. So we'll look more on this properties later, but in general, I highly recommend just explore, play around, and see how they work. If you want to create a little bit more density in the plants, you can go inside the density and increase also to higher. The higher density, the more plants will create. I think in this case, it's look good for now, so we'll leave it as here, and let's click OK. We also can take our main camera and bring a little bit closer just to preview on our island. And you can see we have beautiful palms growing on our island. Let's take our camera and bring a little bit closer, and we'll use it navigation tool, reposition. Notice we have our plants growing beautifully on our island. We're missing water around our island, so let's go ahead and add this. And we're going to left side in our object toolbar, and we're going to select the water. As we add, it will add infinity layer water. We'll take main camera, just move a little bit out so we can preview. And right here you can see we have our water layer kind of applied. It's a little bit lower, so I'll select C, and I'll just bring a little bit high around there. You'll notice it's covered this white Milky Way. Because current material that we're using for the water, it's have it foam, and it's work very well if you have it foam around the edge, but if you have it ground very close, it will create kind of foam, and sometimes you maybe don't want it. So we're going to change this liquid to maybe something like tropical water. I think this way it's worked kind of a little bit more interesting. Of course, when we have it more advanced, we can play with make sand look a little bit more wet, play with more materials and other things. But again, let's don't overwhelm ourselves right now. And I'm going to bring water just a little bit up right there so you can see how it's created. Let's take our camera, and we'll bring camera a little bit closer to the island like this. Water, maybe move slightly away so we can preview. It's kind of like island. We have a beautiful water. If water look a little bit too shimmering, too noisy, want to have it a little bit softer, we need to go inside the material editor for our water, and in the bumps right here we just need reduce. So let's go and put it 0.1. You can see it's creating a little bit more softer. As well, where we're going with water, sometimes transparency it's too much, so we can also add a little bit more murkiness to the water just to be sure it's a hiding ground under. You can see right here it's look a little bit more darker, more dense, and add some reflection to this. I think this way look a little bit more interesting. Let's click OK. So we're done with our terrain. We add plants, we add water. Now let's add a little bit more to our atmosphere to have it a little bit more interesting look. For this, we'll go to Atmosphere Editor. And this again, remember, first level. Now we're in a second level with Editor. And in a clouds, we can add multiple clouds. We can create new, but what I want to do, it's a preloaded. We can click on a load. In 2024 versions, it's add smart clouds. It is stunning, literally, it's very stunning type of the clouds with a lot of cool effects. So we'll use it one of the smart clouds there. The interesting things about smart clouds, we cannot really utilize any of these properties. If you want to modify them, you actually need to go inside the deeper editor for these clouds and work inside to the published parameters because they are very complex. But we'll just leave them like this, and we'll just add another clouds. Now in this case not smart, we're going to specular 2, And from here, let's go just select a simple fluffy clouds, and you can see they will upload them there. But I want them be not so heavy. For this, we'll just take a density and we'll put a density 0.1. So we'll have it, actually, you can go 1%. Oops, sorry. Let's go 1% on the density. We'll increase a little bit opacity, and you can see just add this kind of floating, beautiful clouds around, and that's what we're going to do. We also want to add a little bit ambient light. Altitude variations, we'll give it top of the clouds, make a little bit more. And I think this will kind of work in this case. Maybe just take a little bit reduce on the cover. Okay, after this, let's add density. Well, perspective. So what I was meaning, when we look in an atmosphere, and right now it does not look very realistic because we're looking in two-dimensional, it's not three-dimensional. And in two-dimensional, several options that give it us perspective from the distance. One, it's losing in contrast. It's less contrast because haze will take it. Saturations reductions and reduction in details. We already have it preset on the details. However, we can use it aerial perspective, increasing here to reduce some of the contrast and far away and reduce some saturations. So I like to increase a little bit on this. Okay, let's go to atmosphere editor. Is disappear. There you go. And you can see as we added aerial perspective, it did create slightly kind of more, which is good. Maybe a little bit too much. Yes, let's go reduce. I also like to use the quality boost. By default, it is a minus. You want to put at least 0 because quality, otherwise you will have it grain in your render. I think we'll keep it rest about similar here. We'll just need to take our sunlight and let's play a little bit with sunlight. So we'll put a little bit behind mountain and drop a little bit low to create the golden hour, kind of like sunset. Right here we have a beautiful warm, and you can see we have a nice beautiful look in our terrain. Okay, let's go select our camera, move camera just maybe a little bit closer or far away. You know, this way you probably can play around right here with composition, see what you prefer better. Do you like to move camera one way or another? Okay, maybe we'll just play even like this. I want to see the water. My goal, I want to see reflection water, but I want to also see kind of plants recognize and see this beautiful haze around. After you decide on positioning for your camera, on the lighting and everything, time to render. To do this, we'll go in on the top where it says render, but we're going to right click and we'll open render options. In render options, we want to be sure at least it says to the final quality as well. We'll have it internal render. We will go render to screen because I want to preview. You can render directly on your hard drive and not see, but I like this way. And we're also going to render at least HD resolution. You can render with almost any resolutions from the presets or just type in. As well, we can render even panoramic 3D, HDR, or any other things. Notice it's 2024 versions. We have its cycles version, which is Blender type of the rendering, also available here, but we're going to use it just internal for the view final. And if you're interested, we're also using atmosphere editor. We're going to use our photometric spectral. So if you want to have it a little bit more illustrations, more bold colors, kind of saturations, which I like sometimes do for illustrations, you want to switch from photometric spectral to standard spectral. That will provide more illustrational. Okay, let's click OK here. And now we render to click on the render. Render may take different time, depend on your computer, and you will have it. It's a board called bucketing render. You can see it's like a squares render. You will have it first pre-pass render, and you can see right here this is calculating on the lighting and everything, so it's do one pre-pass. Don't worry if it's black sky, it's a normal right now because it's calculating all this ambient lighting and other stuff. But even now when it's render, I like, look on these trees, they look beautiful. this is real like trees, it's a real island. And when this is first pass is done, after it start our final render. Okay, let's see. Okay, so right here it's kind of done. And we should have it our final render coming. Okay, and right here you can see it start creating those squares. This is actually our final render. I'm going to pause this video while render is completed, and we resume when it's done. Based on speed of your computer, what GPUs you have it or CPUs, their speed it may vary for this render. Well, it took us 1 hour and 30 minutes to render this image, and majority of this it took this atmosphere and clouds. This is very nice new clouds, but very intensive. And by the way, I'm working on the Core i9, so it is quite a bit CPU, and I'm also using RTX 3090 video card with GPU, so you have a good power. But just let you know, some of the atmospheres they look so realistic, but it's take time, so expect this. And here you can see this our image. Well, I hope you found this video is interesting and showing you in the way how you can use the Vue. Again, explore, try find interesting new way to create it, and thank you for watching this. Be sure to check other videos. Have a lot of more to coming out very soon. For that reason, click this notification button, like, it will help this video show to more people, and thank you for all of what you're doing. See you next time.